It's Healthy Minds, Better Lives, our monthly show looking at aspects relating to mental health. Not necessarily just mental health, but also looking at kind of personal well-being and making sure that we're feeling as comfortable as we can in our own skin. And we started off the show looking at results, and prior to that, taking time off. And if you've got the results that you wanted or did not want, but maybe you've taken your time off and you've got a bit of energy, then maybe you're thinking, what am I going to do now? And it's Hayley and myself in the chairs this evening. So Hayley, this is something that you've brought forward to the table about creating goals, and importantly, you're just saying there a different sway on it, stepping back to move forward. Do you just want to reiterate what that means?
Yeah, as we were talking off air about my business challenges. So obviously, I think we probably I'm going to say I set goals better and easier in my business than I do personally. I tend to fall into things personally as opposed to set goals. But so I've got these goals in my business, which are quite big. You know, I've got my medium goals and my big goals. And at the beginning of the year, I really found my wheels were spinning. But what I thought I needed to do was keep heading towards my goals. But it just didn't make sense in the end. Just keep trying to get there when there was something missing. So instead of my goals are still there, but I've taken a huge step back, not just a small step. I've kind of taken my foot off the gas completely, really. And it has taken me a while for the answers to come. And now that the answers are there, I have not necessarily a different direction, but possibly a different path to get to where I was headed. And I think I needed that as well. And I think sometimes you get so caught up in the goals and trying to head in that direction, you forget if it's hard, it might not be the right path.
And I suppose that's the judgment call, isn't it? That's using your brain, using logic, using data, using your gut, and thinking, is this something that I'm going to overcome? And it's that balance, isn't it? How long did you tussle with you?
I think it came to light, actually probably about October time last year. So quite some time, but I didn't really want to acknowledge it until March. And I thought I could overcome it by just keeping going.
Yeah. I
And
will
it
overcome this. I will overcome this. I will overcome this. That positive reinforcement works so up to so far, doesn't it? And so October through to March. So we're looking at 6 months there. Like that's half a year of having these goals and thinking, I'm going to reach it. I'm going to reach it, whilst also being very well aware that you probably weren't getting much closer to them.
I think I felt like I was getting further away from them. They were my goals are my goals, but I was like, I was just beginning to think, are they the right goals? Are they? And these are the questions, are they the right goals? And they might not be. But generally, if you're really passionate about them, they're the right goals. But as somebody said to me not so long ago, you're possibly on the wrong train. So you're headed on the wrong track. So you're not going to reach your goal, or you're going to get stuck here, not getting where you're going. And where do you want to put your effort in? And that's the key, because it's hard work pushing uphill rather than heading downhill in the right direction.
Yeah. So if you don't mind my asking, are the goals still the same? And is it the journey that you've changed, or have you modified those end goals?
No,
Or is it both?
the goals are still the same, luckily.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes, they are. I've just modified what I'm doing now. And actually part of part of my struggle was I'd lost my voice. I kind of didn't know how to communicate the work that I do, and how do I share, because I'm very different in the way that I work. How do I do it without being offensive? Because I can be a little bit brash. This is a huge self-reflection piece. How do I do it without being offensive? How do I do it and still be able to bring collaboration? And how can I be a bit controversial in my marketing? So marketing was the biggest thing for me. And actually last Wednesday, week yesterday, the penny dropped. And I had a little bit of help.
A little help?
Yeah, from ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Also, utilizing a bit of AI to help you with your messaging and your voice.
Well, do you know, yes, because I'd used it for my daughter set up a business, so I'd used it to write a simple business plan for her, so she understood what it means, and then I thought I'm just gonna, because I don't find AI as good as people say it is, and maybe it's not how I use it. I thought I'd just stick the question in there now, and it went, ta-da! There's your answer. I was like, oh my gosh! It literally was like the angels were singing in the car. I was in the car.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, it's just given me a way of saying what I want to say without being brash, without being offensive, without being, setting people on the defense. It's going to be controversial,
Hmm.
but it's going to be controversial in the right way.
And that's positive.
Yes.
Because a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, but you bring a lot of your personal experience. We've had one of your colleagues on previous shows a couple of months ago as well, and you share your story as an advocate. So a lot of what you bring to the table is your lived experience, which we mentioned not so long ago as well. So I suppose your message is about what you've overcome as an individual, but I suppose not. We're all different. So if you were to come 100% with your lived experience, then you're going to be isolating those that still might benefit from your lived experience, but not your exact one.
Yeah. And, for me, it was about taking that break. So being able to come away from understanding, like I do what I do because, and you're the same probably, Tom, you do what you do because you understand it. To break that all down is really hard. If somebody said to you, describe everything you do on a day-to-day basis, I can tell. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would take you a while to do that, but you do it every day.
Yes.
So for me, it was about taking a huge step back, still understanding my goals were there, but taking the pressure off. So I wasn't I was pushing myself to exhaustion, spinning my wheels and still not getting anywhere. So by the time I've gone, and in fact, the afternoon that I got the aha moment, I said to a friend, I'm done with it. I'm done with fighting with it. I'm done with it. And within 5 hours, Jack, I had the answers. I had everything I needed.
Wow. And from just relenting and just letting it, because you still got those goals in mind. And then for those that might be tuning in and thinking, like, how do I set the goals? So are your goals, are they SMART? Are they specific, measurable, accurate? What's the R?
Relatable, no.
Oh, what is it?
I saw it this week. I read it this week.
Something to do with R, and then time sensitive.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, accurate, readable. Yeah. You got to be able to compare it with something, and then time sensitive. So your goals, are they SMART, or are they something else? Are they like a sense of being and feeling?
I'm not very good with SMART. Using that tool. I'm probably not very good at being smart in general, but but actually, the goals are realistic. My long-term goal is extremely. I can feel it, I can see it, I can smell it. I'm there when I think about it. I am where I want to be. My medium-sized goals are not the same. I'm struggling with having the same clarity with my long-term goals. But how you set them is depending on the situation. Is looking at what do you want to achieve and then working backwards. So a lot of people will try and work forwards.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work backwards, so you know where you are now, you set the goal, and then you go, okay, so what's it going to take for me to get there? And what do I need to do a step before that? What do I need to do a step before that? What do I need to do a step before that? Then you get this, you get a different view of it. Because when you're trying to work forward, you kind of sometimes get lost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you work forward and that works for you, there's no saying you shouldn't do that. But it is finding the right way that works for you. Like SMART it bores me. I understand. I know it's a good tool, but it bores me.
Yeah.
But if it works for you, use it.
Yeah, I suppose you lose that passion and that imagery. You just mentioned a lot of imagery there. I know what it feels like. I know what sense I'm going to have. SMART doesn't necessarily give you that feedback of when I achieve this bit, this is how I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
Smart is very much if I do this by next Wednesday, 2 p.m., and I can record it and write it down, I can tick something.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a goal. I suppose that's a task, isn't it? It's not really a goal as such.
No, yeah, I suppose it is a task, and it does make sense to know where you're headed, to give you that. It's quite detailed, isn't it? But it depends on what kind of person you are. If you need that kind of detail and that kind of step by step, it's a great tool. But I am more like if I can see it, feel it, smell it, be there, imagine it. And visualization is so powerful. If you have a good imagination, use it to set your goals. It's so, so powerful.
Yeah, because using that imagination, I've heard of people that do vision boards. They scrapbook, they journal, they write stories about who they're going to be. Because then it helps you step into that light. It helps you step into, oh well, I went out on a world of fantasy and I told this story about when I was a successful X, like a successful whatever. If you know that, you know the kinds of people to gravitate to and what to say and like what circles to be in, because your goals and achieving those things are very much built around some of the network that you find, and that's where working backwards is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening to Bob Proctor. Do
Oh
you know
yeah.
Bob Proctor? He's a really good one. He talks a lot about manifestation but the power of the mind as well. And I think we've forgotten how powerful our minds are when it comes to things like goal setting. We use it for education because we do a lot of thinking, but you don't really think about engaging your mind in the power that it is, or that it could be when it comes to goal setting.
I suppose this is linking back to the first thing we talked about when the show came up, is that allowing that time of doing nothing. Our imaginations never really switch off. We can subdue it by getting stuck in that drag of doing task after task after task and must do this, must do that. But even when we do, quote, nothing, our brain is still firing off. It's still giving us adventure and thoughts. We very rarely don't do anything because our mind's always working.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, if you embrace that I'm not saying about all the whole toxic thinking and all that, but if you embrace the imagination side, but somebody did say to me once, when you talk about imagination, if you can't think about the emotion and you can't think about feeling it and being there, describe it to yourself. Use the words to describe it to yourself. And that's equally as powerful.
Yeah, because that goes back to learning styles then, and how we get things back. Some people are very kinesthetic. They need to feel it. They need to touch it. So if you're thinking one day I'm going to be an Oscar-winning actor, you get some people that make their own trophies.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to win this one day, and it'll be like the proper one. And then you've got other people then that are visual, and they're going to make videos, or they're going to download videos that closely replicate what it is that they want to feel and sense. So it's going back. It's that reflection on yourself, and that's the stepping back again. You may feel like you've forgotten who you are in this journey called life, and you need to kind of reroute yourself and almost press the reset button, like on a Wi-Fi box.
Yeah, and it's giving yourself permission to do that, isn't it? It's about going, okay, yes, I've got a goal, and people will say to you, you have to work hard. I'm really against this thing of work hard, because sometimes you don't have to work hard. If you take the pressure off, things fall, you give it an opportunity to fall into place. But whereas you're working hard all the time, you're missing opportunities. You're not seeing maybe the fuller picture. Maybe you're not seeing the finer details either. But I think we've got to strike that balance between working towards having time off, giving ourselves a break, and allowing ourselves to change path if we have to, change goals if we have to. Nobody says your goal has to be your goal forever.
No. And that's really important. Going back to your struggle for 6 months, we can change our mind whenever we want.
Yes.
You could have changed the outcome, your goal. You decided, no, that's definitely how I want to feel, because you've embodied that goal. And it was all about relaxing and being like, let's see which way the river takes me. Let's see what happens. Oh, actually, I'm going to sit back and relax. There are some people that are dead against Chat GPT and all those AI things because it's lazy, because it's cheating. But for the sake of that little moment in the car where you thought, let's give it a go, and all of a sudden you had that light bulb by just relaxing.
Yeah, our bodies need it, and I think that's what we forget. Goals are wonderful, and yes, it's good to work, and but if you're not going in the right direction, so imagine going in the car, right, and you put the sat nav in a destination in the sat nav, and you come across a river that's broken its banks. The river's up to the bonnet. Do you really think it's a good idea to drive your little Mini through that river?
Yeah, there's probably an alternative.
Well, that's the thing. There are alternatives, whether it's a different route or a different destination at the end. And I think we don't do enough of that exploration of what are my other options.
Yeah. And in fact, using a sat nav is such a good example, because if you came up to that, or you come up to a road closure or whatever, your sat nav automatically reroutes for you.
Yes.
It knows that this way is not passable anymore. Don't worry, we're going to go 2 miles down the riverbank, and then we're going to find another bridge. Oh, and then what I love about that, this is the adventure of life then, is that yes, you haven't gone to your destination in a straight line, but now you've seen a part of the world, going back to the sat nav aspect, that you didn't even anticipate seeing. And that might end up being the best moment of your trip, of your holiday. And you might take that when you cross the bridge and be like, that, or you overcome that barrier in your goal setting, maybe one of these stepping stones to your large goal. And then there's that one stepping stone that's that shining light for the rest of your journey.
Yes.
I learned something back then. This is now my guiding light.
Yeah, absolutely. I get we go in the car a lot, and I'll say to the kids, left or right. So we'll come to a junction. We've not set a destination, but what the goal is to have fun and go and find something new. So we found a batty in Welsh. I can't think what it is in English.
A what? Sorry,
a batty in Welsh.
Batty.
Oh, we found lots of different places that we wouldn't have found had we not gone. Had we put it in the sat nav and gone the usual route. So sometimes go in that different direction. You'll find different. You'll learn something new. You'll find different people that you wouldn't have met on that usual journey, and you'll be a different person potentially in a good way.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this when we first started doing this show, when we were coming back from lockdown and things like that, and people going on walks around their local towns and villages, and not just being, I get out, I drive my car, I go to the end of the main road, I turn left at the roundabout, and I get to my destination, and then I go to work. And all of a sudden we had that freedom to be like, I'm not going to follow the main road today. I'm going to go right. And it was like, oh, did you know this fjord was here? Did you know this forest was here? So many people found new lakes and ponds and waterfalls around the place because they had the time to do it. And it's that wonder of being, actually, I wonder what would happen if I did turn right to go to work today. Like, yes, it might take my journey longer, but I'm going to experience something I never dreamt of.
I think sometimes, like, I'm not a control freak, but I actually like giving up the control in the car. So even though I'm driving, and somebody else is telling me where to go, not the sat nav, but the kids, or because they'll go, one will go right, one will go left, and I go, pick one because we've got to move. But that's quite nice. I'm not saying to give up your power when it comes to your goals. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is somebody might have a good suggestion that you might learn from, you might benefit from, and if you took that suggestion, maybe your goal will come easier. And I think we forget that I don't know if we teach children that enough.
No. And that's a very good point, actually, is that we're talking about this lived experience. I've shared my experience about results day. You've shared your experience about your results day, and also going back and teacher training later on in life, is that the experience around us from the people that we pass daily could actually be that one piece of information. You'd be like, what, you mean I don't have to do it this way? And you've got a new stepping stone.
How amazing is that, isn't it?
Yeah. We've talked previously about setting goals, and we've talked about now what your goals, like how you can feel them, how you can visualize them, and like how to get there. How do people set their goal in the first time? We've talked previously about goals and values. So for those that may have missed those previous shows, which should be available on purewestradio.com on the catch up, do you mind just giving an overview as to how someone might go about first initiating their goals and what they want?
I think it's dipping into, again, it depends on the situation. But so let's say it's a personal goal. It's dipping into what your purpose is. What is it that you really want to achieve? Do you want to? Is there something around how you want to feel at the end? Is there something tangible that you want to achieve? Is there something that you're working towards? And then again, it's deciding what steps you need to take to get there. And setting goals is scary for some people. It's one of those things you look at it and you think, oh, if I set that goal, then I'm stuck. But you're not. You're really not stuck. You can set that goal. You can write it in stone if you like, but it's not written in stone. You can change it if you like. And I think this is something we don't do enough. There are more than one way to get towards your goal.
Yes. There isn't that one way. We might have observed someone like you mentioned, Bob Proctor there, and someone that I watch, which is kind of on a similar thing. You got your Gary V's and you got your Lewis Howes, all these Jay Shetty's. They've all got their methods of how to get your goals. And maybe one of their methods might resonate with you, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do. But actually, if you vary the reading and you think, oh well, actually I like that aspect of what they did, but I like their approach on that and changing my mindset that way, and also I like how Trevor did it down the road. He seems to be living a life that he's enjoying. Maybe if I ask him what he did, we can actually hodgepodge our own way forward.
Absolutely. All these people with all this life experience, they will happily share. And I think I'd love to see more intergenerational projects where youngsters get together with older people, where they share not only skills, but life experience. Because I think, you think about simpler times when maybe working towards your goal wasn't as complex as it is now. Or maybe simpler goals were harder back then because they didn't have the resources, but they had to become more resourceful. And I think, let's teach everybody to be a little bit more resourceful within themselves and enjoy the journey of getting lost. We tend to end up in Bethlehem. Every time we go out in the car, we end up in Bethlehem. I don't know what that's about. I don't know whether it's a sign or whatever. Right? We always end up in Bethlehem. I don't know how, but we enjoy where we end up on all these little roads. And I always say I'm lost, but I always find my way home. But I think if we look at life as being fun, adventurous, and not so serious, then we are a little bit more open-minded.
Yeah. And funny enough, you've mentioned there about intergenerational learning and experiences and projects. One thing that people characterize young people with is that their goals are always featured around having something like a tangible product. It's, when I do this, I'll have the nice car, I'll have this, I'll have something. What I learned through intergenerational projects, so growing up, the family business was an old people's home. So spending all the time with people in 70s, 80s, 90 plus, and realizing what they had and now what they have, two very different things. And then also going away to work for a charity focusing on people affected by cancer. And these people that are, some of them younger in age, that are all of a sudden thinking about, oh gosh, like what am I leaving this world with? And what that happens is you shift and you get that little bit older. Certainly my experience in my circle of friends is that your goals are less about the things that you have, and it's more about the things, how you want to feel and how you can help manifest and feel accomplished in different fields, whatever that might be. If you ever get the chance to spend time with someone who is a little bit older than you, a bit more senior in your years, take their hand off and just ask all the questions, because as I just said, they want to share.
Yeah, and they've got lots to share as well. They grew up in a time when they built walls without any kind of machinery. They made things without machinery. They didn't have phones, not smartphones. They didn't have phones. But think about how resourceful they were as children, where they had to make up these games and they used their imagination and they've got all this experience, and yet here we are with our smartphones thinking we're smart. I'm not sure we are as smart as people who didn't have smartphones. I think they might be a little bit smarter than us.
Yeah. And using that imagination, coming up with this wonderful world around us. And we referred earlier about people that are just stuck in that task finish. It's so easy in this world. We're completely connected all of the time. And then when we do go on social media for a break, which actually is just even more stimulus, we're looking at these perfect people like your Jay Shettys, like your Brendan Bouchards and all of that lot, and you think they've got their lives together. What's the point in me even trying? It can actually be overwhelming and have a detrimental effect. What do you say to people that are trying to figure their own lives out when there's comparison in your goals and your outcomes?
I think it's good to look at what other people are doing. I think it's good to look back only to see how far you've come. But I think it's about being individual in who you are and understanding what do you want, what do you need to do. Because it's okay to look around, but drop the comparison. There are no two people in this world that are alike. And social media in particular, anybody can pause for a split second. Anybody can record a perfect video for 10 minutes. Is not a reflection of true life.
No, it's not. A snapshot in time is not a true reflection of what's going on. And you've just said some great things there about pause, look forward. That's what we're going to do in a moment. We're going to pause for the news at 10 o'clock in just a moment. And then we're going to look at what we've learned so far. So we've got expectation about results and what we can do on the day and how we can look at different paths. We've just talking about stepping back there to move forward. We're in August at the moment. This is usually everyone's resetting time anyway, because usually we're sunbathing in the garden. I'm not doing that this year because you're going to get wet. But it is August. It is that time where we do allow ourselves to switch off for a week or two with our friends and family. Maybe you've gone away. And then September comes back round. And September, I think, is more important than New Year to lots of people, particularly if you've got school-age children. September is the beginning of this is when life starts. It's you press the reset button where we're going to go. So what we're going to revisit and what we're going to look at after the news is September's here. And it will be in like 3 weeks' time. It's going to be here before we know it. And then all of a sudden we're into autumn, we're into October, we're into bonfire night, we're into Christmas, we're into, right, everyone's back, schools are back, college is back, stepping up from GCSE to A-level to college to university. There's all these changes afoot. So we're going to try and break that down for you in advance of September. So we'll tackle that, shall we, Hayley?
We will. It sounds like a good topic.
It does. So we'll be back after the latest news here at 10 o'clock.